All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Peace be with you. Good morning, everyone. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ba'd. I want to thank you very much for being here with us to this very special program, Back to School. I want to thank the beginning, our beautiful and amazing panel who really took out of their busy schedule and being on their weekend after the first week of school to be with us here to talk to us about how to prepare for a wonderful, hopefully, school year in a different environment, to be in a virtual environment. Of course, knowing that our kids usually they spend a lot of time online, a lot of time, especially through the school year, there's an average about 1,000 hours they spend in school. And now, for many families, the virtual experience is a new thing to them. Some people, they have homeschooling as a standard, but many people, like myself, for example, I have two kids who go to the Coppell school district. And I know that, once the school starts, we're so happy to have them back again in school, only to realize they're going to spend more time with us at home. So we kind of like, it's a big challenge for us. And we would like to make sure that this school year is no different than any other school year they spend in class. Of course, education is very important. It's power. And we don't want to have our kids to go or fall short or behind and their learning experience. That's why we're having here a wonderful panel, the experts in the field, to talk to us about how we can benefit from this school year in such an unconventional way of studying and learning. Our first speaker is Dr. Brad Hunt. He is the superintendent of the Coppell Independent School District. I've never got the pleasure really to meet you in person, but I'm very happy to have you here. I heard so many good things about you, really, in regards to being a great educator, a great leader, and always reaching out to community. I'm very happy to have you here. Obviously, many people, Dr. Hunt, are worried about, how we're gonna manage, ourselves in the school. What if our kids don't go to school right now? So are they gonna be able to benefit from the school district? What about the resources that we should know about? A lot of people, they would work, with the school blindfolded. Why? Because they trust the school, they trust the administration. They don't have to worry about anything. Now, many parents are forced right now to start looking and searching, and also, going out there to reach out to the school. What can we do to keep our kids engaged and also benefit from the school district? So please help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us to participate this morning. We really pride ourselves in one of our core values of engagement, and really love engaging with the Islamic Center in Valley Ranch. That's a big part of our community, and we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our community. And exactly what you said, we're starting this new school year. We've ended week 1 in a very unconventional way. And so it's really important now more than ever that we continue to partner with our community, with our families, with our students, and so they do feel connected and engaged and a part of the Coppell ISD school system, and that they are getting that quality education. And as you said, education is power. It's what's going to provide them with opportunities. And so we want to make sure that the educational experience that they receive in CISD is just as strong, either in person or remote. And so we're very thrilled to be able to partner with you this morning. We thank you again for including us. You'll hear from one of our amazing campus administrators, as well as one of our outstanding counselors. And very thrilled to have our,
Dr. Hunt, this is the experience we're talking about, working from home, studying and from home. There's always been something. I guess, as you can see, this is what I mean exactly, to be in a virtual environment.
It's just one of the things that happens when you are participating virtually, when the doorbell rings and the dog barks and all of that. But as I was saying, our panel includes our one of our teachers of the year, our elementary teacher of the year, Ashley Hernandez from Canyon Ranch. She is outstanding. She also taught at Lee Elementary School, and so Valley Ranch Elementary School, so she knows a lot about our school district. But we want to be able to give you some tips and share a bit, and so I'm going to ask Raheela if she could just jump in for a few minutes while I kind of work through this, and then I'll jump back on. So thank you, Raheela.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys, for inviting us. Assalamu alaikum. Really, we are so honored to be here. Before I get started, I did want to say, regardless if you are from Coppell ISD or Carrollton Farmers Branch, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help any of our community members kind of guide themselves through virtual learning, but also questions about 504. I'm the 504 coordinator for my campus as well as testing, or any other questions you may have about special education, special services, ESL. We would be happy to assist you, because as educators, we know that regardless of which district we're in, we are here to serve our community. So I will go ahead and get started on how districts are better prepared for remote learning. I will say, even though that my slides are kind of geared towards Coppell ISD, I will explain the differences or the similarities between Coppell and Carrollton Farmers Branch. Next slide. So this is our back to school presentation. I know you guys are super excited about this. I know you're ready to get your kids back into the school year, and it's not looking like the way you're used to having it look like. And I know my sister, who has 3 kids, cried a little and was a little upset about it. Her kids go to Imagine in McKinney, and her friends' kids go to like the Frisco ISD program. And so all parents across Texas are kind of concerned. How is this going to look? How can we kind of give our kids the opportunity to learn without holding their hand every step of the way? Next slide. So I do want to let you know that our return to school is going to be in 3 stages. Currently, you guys are in stage 1, which is distance learning. All learners are in distance learning right now, both in Carrollton Farmers Branch and in Coppell ISD. And it will continue till September 4th. Inshallah, hopefully everyone will be back to school September 8th. Again, I will say, inshallah, everyone will be back to school September 8th. So please make sure you're wearing your masks and you are being safe, because we want our kids back in school. It is the best environment for them, but we will of course make every environment amazing for them. After that first quarter, it's going to be parent choice, face-to-face, or distant learning. And that's for both school districts. If you choose to keep your learner at home, we will make sure that they are receiving similar experiences as they are if they are in our classroom. And that goes for both school districts. We believe in having not only asynchronous learning, but elements of synchronous learning where they can be a part of, our classroom environment. So that helps with their social emotional growth as well. It's very difficult. I have one child, she's a daughter. She's 16 years old, and she has been away from her friends all summer, and it is hurting her emotionally. And being able to be in this face-to-face / distant learning environment, even right now, just seeing her friends on the Zoom calls and participating with the teachers live is helping her quite a lot, rather than doing it waking up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and doing it on their own. So we made a very conscious decision to add synchronous elements with our asynchronous learning, which are in distant learning. And then 2nd through 4th quarter, inshallah, we are hoping to transition all our learners back to school. And I'm going to add it back to Brad Hunt here before I move forward. Dr. Hunt, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Raheela. And as Ms. Shaikh said, our goal is to provide equity among both of our environments, whether you're distance learning at home or you're coming on campus starting September the 8th. We wanted to provide parents with that option and that choice. Most of our parents are choosing to stay remote learning, at least for the first 9 weeks. And so we want to make sure that experience is very engaging. It's focusing not only on the academics, but the social and emotional piece, as Ms. Shaikh said, because we realize it's hard for kids to be isolated. It's hard for our teachers not to have the kids with them in the classroom. And so just looking for ways to keep engaging. You'll hear from Ms. Hernandez. She's really an expert in this area, as well as Ms. Duncan, one of our counselors, on things that we're doing as a district to try to make certain that we're addressing those social emotional needs too. But the academics obviously are very important. And so our teachers have worked very, very hard, our educators, to create experiences that are very meaningful for our children. Last spring, we had to quickly put a distance learning package together just really in a week. And so even though it wasn't perfect, we had some good successes there, but we also realized that it wasn't maybe to the level that we would want to have for a longer period of time. And so our our teachers, our educators really did a nice job this summer of developing some really innovative and creative lessons. And again, those opportunities for the Zoom meetings, I think, are really, really important, so that whether it's synchronous or asynchronous learning, as Mashik said, they're able to really talk to other learners in the classroom, some of their friends, of their teachers. And I think that's really, really important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hunt. We really appreciate your input over here and your participation, also helping all our families feel again the confidence as we start the school year. And I also want to thank you again, Sister Raheela. We will continue with you afterwards. I'm sure that a lot of people have so many questions that will come at the end of the program. I want to remind my brothers and sisters who are watching and participating right now, if you guys have any questions, you can put that on in the chat log or the chat box with the Q&A section. We're going to have an open Q&A at the end of the program, but I'm sure a lot of the questions people have that you've already spoken about, you're going to be covering them in the presentations that are with our experts here. So we'll wait for that towards the end. Once again, we thank you very much, Dr. Hunt, for being here with us. We appreciate your support as well, too. Sister Raheela, again, coming back to you as being, of course, the assistant principals in New Tech High School here. A lot of people, of course, parents has expectation, and many parents, they've never really had the opportunity to be with their children all the time, to be with them basically learning. They're just gonna send them to school, and thank God I come to pick them up at the end of the school day, right? So that's something they're not used to it right now. I need to be on top of everything, because we know when kids, of course, go online, we're not sure if they're really learning or watching Netflix, for example. So what's the expectation from parents and students that we need to know about the learning experience here? Please continue with your presentation.
Absolutely. If we could go to the next slide. So again, as Dr. Hunt stated, there are many differences from our distant learning in spring and our distant learning in fall. One of the things that happened in the spring is we had very short time to prepare, and our facilitators, our teachers, our staff members, district members, everyone was all hands on deck trying to get everything ready and transition into a distant learning in very short time. I will say over the summer, it was sleepless nights. Every single person in our district was working overtime, making sure that we are fully prepared to not only give our distant learning at the beginning of the school year for all learners, but to prepare ourselves for moving forward into a hybrid model where learners who want to stay at home but still want to get the experience of being a part of the classroom environment can do that and still be safe. And those who come back to school are safe because of our schools are completely sanitized. We're all wearing masks. We're all making sure that we are following social distancing guidelines, but they can go ahead and do their face-to-face. And it's a choice parents need to make. And it's every parent who makes that choice, we respect that, and it's best for their family. The other thing is that instruction is going to be a little bit different. We were giving a lot of grace in spring. However, because of TEA guidelines, we need to make sure that learners are getting the rigor that they need when they are entering our schools. And so in the fall, it's going to be different in terms of rigor. You're going to see a lot of the, I would say, the instruction is going to be just as, almost as par as it was when they were face-to-face and none of this COVID thing happened. The only thing that you will see is different is that there's going to be a lot more engagement in learners who are in school, but because they're going to be working very closely with their learners who are out of school. So even though they are in different environments, they are going to be working together. There's a lot more group work. I know in New Tech, we have already started our PBL learning with our learners. They did their first week projects, which was amazing. They worked really hard to get into welcome the rookies into, or the ninth graders into our school and get into the movement that they usually do at the beginning of the year. I know that our leadership groups on campus, our learner leadership groups on campus are working really hard to make sure that all learners are assimilating. And grades are going to be different too. Instead of the pass-fail that we had in spring, which was more of let's give these learners an opportunity. It's a difficult time. Everyone is struggling. Now it's going to be, okay, we're going back to our usual grading system. So regardless if you're in Coppell ISD or Carrollton Farmers Branch, the grading will look similar as to what it usually is. And attendance will be taken. So please understand that we have a 90% rule. the state says that the learner has to be in their seat 90% of the time to get credit for the class that they're in. And if they are not participating 90% of the time, it's a possible attendance committee and then a possible loss of credit. So we don't want to get into that area. Attendance will be tracked in both school districts. Coppell ISD will be tracking attendance similar to Carrollton Farmers Branch by how much they are engaged, how much they're participating. Are they doing their daily assignments? Are they part of the Zoom participation? So we will be rigorously tracking to see whether our learners are engaged, which brings us to the Netflix. You really won't be on Netflix because we're constantly engaging you in different assignments and practices. And that's why it's so, so important that your learners are following our schedule from whatever day, morning time your school opens. I know at New Tech it's 8:50 to 4:10. We expect our learners to be available and participating regardless if they are at home or if they're at school. Next slide. So we were going on what our expectations are. Our expectations are not difficult to follow. We want our learners to be safe. We want our learners to be engaged, but we expect them to have the same level of rigor as if they were with us full time. So being prepared every morning for class, again, I would really reiterate that it's so important that your learners, your children, follow the schedule that we have on our CISD website, which is our normal school day, because they're going to get the most out of that. However, we do understand there are some times and there's some days that they may not be able to attend class exactly at that time. And that's why all of our sessions are recorded and are given in an alternative way as well. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all families, regardless. Completing assignments is very important for us. We want them to make sure that they are active participants, that they're not just, their video is off, they're just sitting there, you know, you see all those memes with kids just having their picture and acting like they're in class, but they're not. Our facilitators are going to be not only monitoring their sessions, but making sure that they're not just speaking in their sessions, they're actually engaging them in different activities. I know I saw one the other day where they were doing a Kahoot game while they were learning about their first week project. So everyone was really engaged and involved. They're coming up with some great ideas. Our educators are not stagnant. They are very fluid with the system. They know how to engage our learners regardless of what the outside outcome is happening. So they know that they will make sure that your learners, that your students are getting the rigor, but the experience and the emotional support they need, regardless of whether they're in school with them or they're outside of school. Really, they just need to be told if you have a situation. So I think one of the expectations that we're really gonna hold you to is reach out to us. Talk to us. If you have questions, let us know. Let your teachers know. Let your principals know. We are here for you. We worked all summer. We are working full time. We are here for you, and we want to be able to answer any questions that you have. Don't hesitate to let us know if there's even the slightest situation where you're concerned about, because that's what we're here for. The same thing for educators. They're working really hard to make sure that all assignments are on their learning management system. Coppell ISD uses Schoology across the board right now, and Carrollton Farmers Branch uses Canvas. So please make sure that if you have any questions, both school districts have help desk tickets. So please go to their website. And if you have any technology questions or you need extra support with your technology equipment, please use the help desk. We are getting those questions answered as fast as we can. Our technology staff works around the clock. I mean, they are working so hard to make sure that every learner has equity, every learner has a device they can use, and they are able to log in and work in this environment. And parents, for you guys, we just really want you to be supportive and to understand that we are all in this together. And if you are struggling, that is what we're here for. Reach out to us, let us know what you need support in, and just make sure that your learners know what their schedule is and that they're following it as best as possible. Next slide. So I'm not going to go over this really too much. This is basically our minimum grading expectations. It's the same as it was before. We are consistently monitoring grades now, just like as if they were in school last year. So the same thing with Carrollton Farmers Branch. They are using the same grading guidelines that they used in previous years, and so are we. It's no longer a pass-fail. We will be looking at their performance tasks as well as their summative assessments. New Tech is slightly different. We base our grading on our learning outcomes from our network. So, but it's the same rigor and the same amount of grades that are being inputted into the system. Next slide. Attendance. So a lot of people ask, how are we going to be monitoring learners' attendance? Believe it or not, it is being monitored very, very closely. All of our staff members, our facilitators, teachers know that to really give them the attendance credit for the day, learners have to be full-time participants. And the interactions that they're doing on our learning management system is going to help us really track attendance, because that is absolutely necessary per TEA guidelines. So it's not that, you know, oh, well, my child was assigned this and they just decided not to do it, or they were sitting there, but they were playing Smash Brothers. No, they have to be really participating in the classroom environment, whether they're asynchronous or synchronous. Asynchronous means that they could do it on their own time. There are some assignments that they will do on their own time. Synchronous means that they will be participating in live sessions, whether it's discussions, whether it's Zoom meetings, whether it's interacting with facilitators in other ways. And so they're going to have the opportunity to show that they are available and they are there and they are part of the discussion and working hard with the rest of the learners. So the Zoom expectations, these are for Coppell ISD. Just know that Carrollton Farmers Branch also has the same expectation for synchronous learning. It is so important that your learners are actively participating, and that means mom and dad, get them up. Get them up at 7:30 in the morning, depending on whichever grade level they're in. Get them at the table, tell them to get their computers up and running, and the more involved they are, the more they follow their normal schedule, the more healthy they will be, the more mentally prepared they will be for the rest of the school year. The problem with the spring is that there were so many different kids on different schedule and it was hurting them. Now they will be back to the routine and the schedule that all learners need, regardless if you're a 5-year-old or if you're an 18-year-old. The thing that I've learned in the past 15 years of education, kids need a schedule. They need support. They need to know that they are cared for, that they're wanted, that they're engaged. And that is what we do at Coppell ISD. If you guys have any questions, like I said, regardless if you're from Carrollton Farmers Branch or Coppell ISD, we are here for you. We want to support our community. I'm here for you. So please make sure, reach out to me, rshaikh@coppellisd.com. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Raheela. And I want to thank you very much, Juli, for taking the time again to be here with us this morning, although it's supposed to be your day off. But still, you guys are working and educating and teaching us and giving us the opportunity to understand what do we expect as parents, also what we expect from our educators, and what we expect for our students as well too, and how they can make this year a very successful year. So once again, thank you very much for being here with us. I also want to remind our brothers and sisters here that if you guys have any questions, please make sure to write them down on the chat box or the Q&A section. We're going to come to revisit these questions at the end of the presentation, because I'm sure that a lot of your questions will be answered by some of our experts who will be here on the program. Also, I want to remind them that we have a raffle opportunity for you at the end from our sponsors. So stay with us until then, because we're going to share the link to the raffle, the Google actually form for it. So stay with us until then. Next, we have our speaker, teacher Ashley Hernandez. She is the teacher of the year of 2020, I believe, for the school district. I want to leave it actually to Dr. Hunt to introduce Ashley Hernandez for us.
I would love to. Ashley Hernandez has been a part of the Coppell ISD family for several years. As I said, she was a previous educator at Valley Ranch Elementary and helped us open our newest elementary school, Canyon Ranch, which opened last fall. Ashley has a wonderful gift of connecting with all of the learners in her class. She is a very caring person, a very innovative and engaging teacher. She is someone that parents request to have their kids to be in her class because she's so fantastic. She's a wonderful collaborator. She's constantly sharing ideas with other educators across the district. She is an advocate for public education. She's a wonderful person and a great friend, and I'm very thrilled to have her in our district, and just want to say again, thank you to her and her hard work, and congratulate her on being our elementary teacher of the year. So with that, I'll present Ms. Ashley Hernandez.
Well, hello. I was truly humbled this morning. Thank you, Brad, for that introduction. I was humbled this morning because I actually had some technology issues myself. So I really got to feel how you're probably feeling as parents at home and how kids are feeling. I ran over to my in-laws this morning because it wasn't working at my house. So, you know, we understand that technology is something that's out of our control a lot. So I just want to start off with that and let you know that we have a lot of teachers who are parents themselves. We have an understanding, and I definitely got a bigger understanding just now. I'm trying to get in. So thank you for having me. Go ahead and I think the next slide. But just know that we are a partnership, and I'm sure this has been said a lot already today, but whether you're in Coppell ISD or you're in Carrollton Farmers Branch, or wherever your child is, just know that we are here for you. And I know that in the hearts of teachers, all we want is what's best for your kids. So do not ever hesitate to reach out to your child's teacher. Even me though, even if I'm not your child's teacher, I'm here for you if you have questions about today's presentation, but I can say with confidence that your child's teacher, K through 12, cares a whole lot about making sure that they are successful this year, especially in these circumstances. I'm going to be talking about how tips for success, but I am speaking from mostly an elementary teacher perspective, but most of these tips will work for all ages and grade levels. And actually, I did see a lot of these already mentioned in the last presentation. So it sounds like we are truly better together. We really are all thinking the same way when we're thinking about you all being successful and your children. Next slide, please. Okay, so I've heard a lot from parents who are in completely different situations than the next. So we understand that your families all have different situations at home. Some of you are working from home, some of you are deemed essential workers, some of you were working from home and now you're making the transition, or vice versa. So understand that we know it looks different for everyone, but if one of the situations that I've heard a lot of is I'm working at home, how do I support my child? Or I'm working outside of the home, how am I going to trust them to get everything done, especially those K through 5 kiddos. So I loved this idea that a very good friend of mine, who is also a parent of one of my students a few years ago, said that she's doing with her child, and I just had to share it with all of you. Reflect at the end of each day. So I know at the dinner table when I was a kid, we said one high and one low of the day, and that was just to get really us to talk and actually have to provide an answer rather than, well, we did nothing today. How was your day at school? Oh, we did nothing. So if you say one high and one low, that's going to help you reflect with your child about what went well and then what didn't go so well in their day. And then from there, you can address and see how you can help your child. Planning a time each evening that works for your schedule to intentionally reflect with your child and help support them in any way possible. So knowing that when you're building that schedule, like was mentioned in the last presentation, when you are building that schedule, also consider the schedule about after school. So the schedule after school being whenever you are off your work hours or whenever that is, you are planning a time that your child knows every day they can come and talk to you. Utilize your teacher's office hours. I know that this was talked about. They want to help you. Office hours are a requirement of the Texas Education Agency. So I do know that public schools are offering office hours. Those might look a little different per school and per teacher. However, just reach out to your teacher and they will have a lot of support for you. And then, as was already said, our schools and districts have technology support services. So really know that that's there if it is a technology issue. Next slide. My biggest point in the last one was just making sure that you're building your child's independence. I know a lot of families that are dear and close to my heart that have kindergarten kids going into school. And that's been really hard. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit, but even your kindergartners, they can build independence. They're going to be as independent as you allow for them to be. So, of course, they're going to need your support, but setting them up for success, I am struggling with my words this morning. Setting them up for success is all you can do, but it's also really important that you're not doing everything for them. So one of the ways you can help them feel like they are taking ownership of their learning is setting up their learning space. So you might have already done this with their teacher, but one thing that we noticed this week when we started back to distance learning was there might be a difference in your home depending on the structure of your home and just how much space you have to work with between Zoom spots and learning spots. So you might have built a learning space for your children and you might have 2 to 4 children in that area. And then when they all go onto Zoom, you get that wonderful echo sound that's buzzing in your ear, and the teachers and classrooms from all 4 of your kids' iPads can hear that. So knowing that when they Zoom, they might need to be in a different spot of the house than when they're actually working on their independent work. Also, I just want to address for some learners or some families who have children who are a little bit more active or they can't sit still all day. I think as a teacher, that has been on my heart a lot because we have so many different techniques we can use within the classroom to help a child who's maybe needing to move a little bit more or stand up. But how do you do that at home? So watch your child, if you can, go through one Zoom and see how much are they moving back and forth, how much are they wiggling, how long does it take them to start, working with their fingers a little bit, fidgeting. Do they need a fidget? So something to keep their hands busy to help them focus. Do they need maybe an exercise ball to sit on? Maybe you need to change the chair. So knowing that you're not going to have a perfect learning space right away, but working with your child to see what works best for them. I know that one learner I had in years past did wonderful as long as that learner could stand. So sometimes, they do better standing up, just looking at that. Also, one thing we recognize is that you might not have a ton of space in your home, and you also might be working from home. So if you have a small space, there's been some creative things I have seen done. I've seen a crate with a board on top to hold up the iPad and then moving it around throughout the house based on what your family looks like and your day looks like. One incredible idea I loved with one of my learners this week was he made an iPad stand out of his Legos. So normally, you see a bunch of the kids moving around with their iPad, but we were trying to solve the problem of all of the movement and how distracting that can be. And so he shared that he actually made a stand out of Legos. So thinking outside the box there of how to keep it still. In fact, right now I have the iPad is all I could get into the Zoom on. And so I have a real ricocheted kind of setup going on so that I could get my iPad straight. So whatever works for you. And then just knowing that testing it out, if it doesn't work, try again. Just absolutely okay not to get it perfect. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, I did hear a concern about asking, do I need to sit with my child all day? And the answer in most cases is no. In the traditional school setting, starting as early as kinder, we promote independence. I want you to think about in school, okay, before all of this, we had kids carrying their lunches, picking up the classroom, learning how to take care of their supplies. completing work while we were in a small group with kids. So of course we were monitoring your children and they were in a safe space. However, they weren't always having our help right next to them. There was definitely never a time where I was with a child for 8 hours right by my side, walking them through step by step. And that includes when I did student teaching in kindergarten. It's not possible with all of those kids, but it's also not beneficial. I want you to hear me when I say that your kids can do more than you probably give them credit for. And I have to remind myself of that every day as a teacher as well. So a great thing that I would suggest doing is creating collective commitments together to promote self-advocacy and independence in your child. So basically coming up with a plan. What's going to happen if you don't understand the directions? And you all jot out some ideas. What will you do if technology is not working? Who can help with problems when technology is down, or when it's the morning time, or when it's the afternoon time? And having a set expectation for what's going to happen when they run into these issues. That's going to help them with problem solving. But also what's interesting is if they're answering this question every time with, I'm going to ask my teacher, or I'm going to ask you, mom and dad, for your help, then you can work through some ways and say, well, no, you know what? You actually have access to your teacher's office hours, or you can try this, this, and this before you go and ask for help. So create a habit of your child checking the collective commitments, or a note of what to do when, so they can be independent as possible. Next, please. Okay, another part about sitting with them all day. There are sometimes parents who are really worried that their child isn't understanding, so they want to help. We love our children, we want to help our children, but sometimes with the best intent, we have a different impact. So expect authentic work versus perfection. So some parents are supporting their child so much, it actually turns into the opposite of learning. Okay, if you're giving your child the answer all of the time, or you're correcting their work before they're turning it in, capitalization, punctuation, then I, as the teacher, see that they don't need help with that. I see that, oh, this child knows how to do this. I need to extend for them. I need to challenge them. When in fact, really, I might be looking at a parent's work. So just make sure that your child knows it does not have to be perfect. It needs to be their best effort. And then let them speak in the Zooms. If they are speaking incorrectly, that's okay. That's practicing that speech. It's practicing that articulation and communication piece. Okay, next, yes. Okay, Zoom fatigue. There's just so much of it. So there are a few resources for you, but I also know that some of the concern is screen time. So with GoNoodle, you can do a bunch of brain breaks, but if you want them to get away from screen time, there's a lot of things you can look out on the internet for, of things they can do without the screen in between each subject. Okay, next, we're gonna fly through these slides real quick. Okay, some ideas from a kinder teacher at Canyon Ranch Elementary. She was talking to me, and I wanted to share this for our families that have kindergarten or preschool children. So printing out the weekly schedule and have the child cross off boxes as they complete things. It's a great way to build independence and routine, even if they can't be independent on Zoom or Schoology just yet. Maintaining a daily routine, which I know was talked about already. And then allowing them again with that independence, pushing buttons, trying to do it first, and they won't know how to navigate it all alone at first when they're little, but that's okay. Okay, next. Interactive and hands-on opportunities when it's also digital. So if your child has a writing assignment, they do not always have to complete that writing assignment digitally. If they have the option to go on paper and pencil, have them take a break from the screen and work in paper and pencil. Science, if they have the opportunity to create something and they've been creating digitally, have a tub of materials ready where they can create with toilet paper rolls, paper towel rolls, newspapers. Math, you should be getting some manipulatives or help from some teachers, but if they are not able to do that for you, because of the situation we are in, or virtual manipulatives just really aren't doing the work that hands-on work could do, you can use dry beans for manipulatives, and that's going to help with counting and place value, addition, subtraction, and all of that good stuff. Next. And just remember that if nothing went right today, that's okay. So if your whole day on Zoom just was awful, or technology did not work, or you have extenuating circumstances, reach out to the teacher and let them know we are your partner in this and we are willing to work with you. And the next slide just shows remembering your circle of control. Next slide. I think I addressed that already. Just letting you know that if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Hernandez@coppellisd.com. And thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hernandez. Speaking actually from also an experience as a parent of a child who's also going to the 5th grade. She's going to the 5th grade, and always having the whole idea, how do I carry, the iPad? Should I put it in the bed? Should I just kind of like sit down on my chair, maybe on the floor? They keep moving around, and yeah, it is actually a big challenge, and I appreciate it. And thank you very much for the tips that you gave us today on how we can keep our kids engaged. We definitely have many people that have some questions on that as well too, but we are deferring the question to the end of the program, so bear with us. And once again, thank you very much for taking time in your busy schedule on the weekend to be here with us. We appreciate all the help and support that you give us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have actually a stop here with one of our sponsors for this event on how to create a nice, beautiful backyard learning spaces with backyard learning. So we have a commercial break.
Sorry, it seems like we're having a technical difficulty, so we're just going to skip over it. If it works, we'll come back to it at the end.
That's all right. That's fine. This is one of the, again, the challenge we have when you use technology, right? We try our best to keep everything perfect, but there you go. We still have some issues with that. Until we figure out that the technical issues with the video, we have our next speaker is going to be Sister Juli Herman. She is one of our local members of our community. I've known her and her family for many, many years. She's a homeschooler, a parent, and she's one of the experts, obviously, in the field of homeschooling. And frankly, when the public school system went all virtual, it's almost became like a homeschooling experience. So she's here with us to tell us how we can help our kids adjust to the system, and as parents as well, how we can adjust to become, parents of, again, homeschooling until we send our school back again to the classroom. So Sister Juli, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sheikh Yaser, for the introduction. Okay, so I had technical difficulties also, so I hope everybody's seeing me okay. I can't see myself, but I hope I'm visible. Yes? Okay.
You can see, but the camera is a little bit downward.
Okay. Is that better?
That's better. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, so I'm gonna begin with remote learning versus traditional homeschool. So when COVID happened, you see a lot of memes coming up, talking about, oh, we're homeschooling now. So as the homeschooler, it's amusing, but I also felt kind of like we need to clarify the difference between remote learning and homeschooling. So where they overlap is that the learning happens at home and it's on an online platform. But other than that, they're very different, because remote learning is institutional based, where you have a set of teachers. It's basically a school where they're private, public, on-site or online, delivering the instructions and the assignments to the students who are at home through an online platform. And they're using a curriculum, and it's as how has been described before in the previous presentations. Homeschooling, on the other hand, is family-based, I would say home-based, where a family actually consciously decides to choose a lifestyle of learning by embracing the homeschool mindset, in which they themselves, after research and after learning about homeschooling, they figure out what their educational philosophy is. And it might be very different from the traditional conventional school setting. And so, and based on that, their homeschooling style will look different, and each family has a unique homeschooling style, in fact. And so with this, their homeschooling, in terms of the schedule for the remote learning, it follows the typical school schedule, fall through summer, and you have the typical holidays, the school breaks. For homeschoolers, we get to choose when we take our breaks, and usually we will choose times where maybe some homeschooling families might homeschool through the summer. They might take breaks in the fall, for example, and they will go on vacations when the school's not out. And so that's one of the perks of homeschooling, is that, you know, you get to go to places where it's not too crowded and maybe not too expensive either. And how and when you learn, it also look different, because the whole educational philosophy that is the core of this whole homeschooling, where it's basically to maintain the love of learning that every child is born with. And it's to keep this love of learning intact. And based on what their educational philosophy is, they will do it differently. So for some homeschoolers, they might not start academics up until, I know there are some proponents that says that don't teach reading until age 12, for example, and then some would. So it differs even among homeschoolers. And then learning happens not just in the classroom setting. It happens at home. It can happen while they're traveling. It can happen outside where they're doing community service or volunteering for older children. And even for the younger children, you know, they have co-ops. Even for older children, they have co-ops or they have play dates, and the learning happens there. And the parent is not just a teacher, but also a facilitator. And the best thing is that the parents learn along with the children. And so homeschooling is basically an extension of parenting. You are a parent, and you are also a facilitator, and also kind of almost a learner along with the children. And you encourage their independence by letting them think and ask them questions that make them think. And they explore life learning like this. So that's the differences between homeschooling and remote learning. So now, I'm not in a good position to give parent tips. In fact, this was actually confusing. And I see that a lot of this is already covered by the teachers before, so which is really great. But probably what I can give is, because the whole situation's changed now, and that the students are actually at home. They're learning at home. And so this is kind of like the homeschooler's turf, right? So, and I noticed that, because I missed the first presentation, so I don't know what was mentioned there. So I apologize if this is a repeat. So what I would suggest is, one of the tips for this streamlining, kind of adjusting to the learning at home, was that have a family meeting and get everybody's schedule, you know, and see how they feel, sort things out, and lay out your expectations. So, for example, like you have multiple children, you have expectations for one child from their classes, and then another child. So you're kind of like streamlining everything for the whole family. And what would be nice also is to have a whiteboard in a common area. That's what I used for my kids. I would basically list what they needed to do for the whole day, and then when they're done, they can check it and check it and check it. So if you have multiple students, I saw an example of printing a weekly schedule and checking off the boxes. It's a good idea. That's kind of like the same concept. And when you have expectations, for example, you might have to be realistic with expectation. This is in terms of the home. For example, how clean the house is and stuff like that. When the kids are home the whole day and they're there the whole time, it might not be as clean as when they were at school before. One very, very big plus with this is that you don't have to rush in the morning. Send the kids to school, pick them up, drop them for the next activity and stuff like that. You actually have more time to incorporate into your morning routine what you are not able to incorporate before. So use this time to bond with the kids. You might not have had time to do that before when they were going to school. So use this time to for a morning routine. Include that when you have breakfast together, and then lunch together, maybe evening routine also. And learning space was mentioned, so that's very important. Have a system where they know, like for example, if there was a bin where they have all their books, and then when they're done, maybe put it in another place, so that way it's easy for the homeschool parent also to keep track. And maybe have a system where when during the meeting you can discuss this. Have a system where how can they help the parents keep track if the parents need to keep track. And I know we talked about independence also, but sometimes the first few weeks, maybe the first month, the parents might need to kind of oversee and make sure the kids are okay with the system and everything, and that they are, I like the list that Ashley mentioned about what if this is not working, then what do I do? It's kind of like a troubleshooting guide, basically, for the kid, right? And so, so that's one tip, and that have a family meeting and discuss all of this. Make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's on board. And if there's any protest or anything, like sort them out. And then number two is that this is basically mental breaks in between classes, because it might be a long day for the kids and they're at home, and you know, screen time also, right? Maybe have a family area where you have maybe jigsaw puzzles there, board games, or Rubik's Cube, or I think the ball was mentioned by Ashley, things like that, where they can take mental breaks in between classes and do stuff. And it could actually encourage family bonding too, especially if they're doing jigsaw puzzles, for example. And I actually do yoga in between the class for my son, and so we do that together. So it's kind of, because they might not have PE, right? And so do that, and so that it could encourage family bonding between the siblings. And even if both parents are working, then just with the siblings. If the parents are there, then maybe get the parents more involved. And it gives the kids mental breaks. And for screen time, because you're like looking at the screen, so maybe have them like step outside for a bit, look somewhere far away, just to encourage that, you know, like the eye switching from looking for something close for a long time, and then getting up and looking at something that's more of a distance. And the third thing that I have is family outings. So have weekly family outings, because maybe especially the first few weeks, the first month, it might be overwhelming for everybody in the family, and then it's COVID, everybody's stuck at home. So maybe just take the whole family out every week, go, I don't know, hiking, kayaking, or play sports. For us, years back before we moved to Dallas, what we used to do is that every week on Sundays, we used to go out as a family and go and play tennis. Even when the kids were younger, we would play tennis. The parents would play tennis, the younger kids would play tennis too, but sometimes we'd go on the trails, they would bike, we would rollerblade, you know, so have something where you kind of actually take a break. And so this would basically just kind of like a weekly rejuvenation for the whole family, especially during times of COVID. And of course, observing all the safety precautions or whatever during COVID. And that's all I have. I think a lot of the tips already mentioned before. So thank you for having me. I feel honored to be on the panel. And thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Juli. Thank you very much for your presentation. I know you've been a parent, homeschool parent for a very, very long time, and your expertise is very appreciated here, especially for parents who suddenly became more like homeschoolers, you know, without signing up for it. So they don't know what the challenge, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I appreciate that. Next, we have a quick break. Hopefully this time the video will work, from one of our sponsors to help creating learning spaces at home with a spin. And then next, we will have our next speaker next. Come on.
Items that she needs for her virtual learning. For a change of scene, and because she loves to read, we have few other reading spaces where she can just go and do her reading as well. tarbiyah, and a little bit of organization is what I applied. And inshallah, this helps you to set up your kids' station as.
Thank you very much for our sponsors, and we appreciate their support and their help for this program. Our next speaker is Ms. Duncan, Jaime Duncan. She's a school counselor for the Coppell Middle School West. We thank you very much for being here with us, and I want to give it back to Dr. Hunt to introduce the amazing panel that we have over here. Obviously, when it comes to learning social distancing over here and seeing your friends on a screen and you're unable to hug them or hold their hands and play with them, it puts so much pressure, especially, you know, separation anxiety. And this, I believe, where the expertise is going to come from you. So Dr. Hunt, please.
Yes, thank you so much. As I said at the intro, we're so fortunate to have amazing staff members in CISD. You've heard from two of them already. One of our top administrators, Ms. Shaikh, as well as Ms. Hernandez, our outstanding teacher of the year for elementary at Canyon Ranch. Both ladies are incredible. I'm also thrilled that one of our school counselors is here with us today as well. She is a Coppell ISD graduate. Both she and her sister have graduated from Coppell, and I'm thrilled to have her back in CISD. She's been a counselor at Middle School West for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. She's been with us for quite some time. She's got extensive background on working with all children, but particularly those at the adolescent level. And so if you're a part of Carrollton Farmers Branch or Coppell ISD, or if you're homeschooling, you'll be able to benefit from some of her expertise, because many of the things that you have shared, as you just did, regarding that separation and anxiety, all of those social and emotional needs are real. And so it's really important that as we're monitoring that screen time and as we're helping with our academics, and we're also making certain that there's some physical outside healthy options too, that social emotional piece is a focus as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jaime Duncan, one of our counselors at Coppell Middle School West.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to join in. I hope everybody can hear me. I also had technical difficulties. It sounds like that was a theme today. So yes, I also share in that stress of, oh my gosh, I can't get on the meeting, and totally understand how our kids are feeling and parents. I am a counselor at West, and so I'm coming to you as an educator, but also as a parent. I have a middle school, 8th grade daughter, and then I also have a 4th grade son. So kind of seeing both sides of it. I think the most important thing for us to remember during this time is that our kids are grieving the loss of just their old life, the way things were, their friendships, their activities. And I think we often associate grieving with death, but they are definitely grieving. And so really just helping them to verbalize how they're feeling and communicate their feelings about this, and helping them to process is really, really important. All of the wonderful tips that have already been shared about how to be successful with the education part are fabulous. And I even wrote a few down for my own kids. Like, I'm so thankful that we have all of these resources, but it is also important to focus on how they're feeling. And so we all know this, and I'm sure it was shared in the very beginning as well, but students have to feel emotionally safe and valued and cared for, no matter where they are doing their school, before they can be successful. So even if they are going to be virtual for the long haul, or if they are going to join back on campus, they have to feel, safe and cared for. And so I know a lot of, in Coppell at least, that we are doing daily check-ins with the kids on how they're feeling. Some are doing it through their teachers, and at West, we asked the teachers if we could take it over as counselors so that we could really be in touch with our kids and make sure that we have our finger on how they're doing. And the kids they're responding really well and telling us what they need and how they're feeling. And a lot of it is they miss their friends, they miss their teachers, they just miss being physically at school. And so we're spending a lot of time just talking to them about how that feels. but also what they can control. Going back to that circle of control. So we don't always have control about being able to be on campus and with our friends, but what can we control? Another thing is monitoring our stress as parents, because our students, our children, definitely mimic our behaviors and feed off of us. And so sometimes I have to really watch myself. If I'm feeling negative, I can see it in my own kids. And then that molds how they're feeling for the day. So as parents, if we can, you know, of course we're grieving the loss as well. So we have to deal with that too. But if we can, and sort of just watch how we are in front of our kids and try to remain positive and upbeat. And even if it's something as frustrating, just showing them that it's okay, we'll work through it. We're all in this together. You know, none of us can call a friend and say, how did you guys handle virtual school during a pandemic? Because we're all doing this together for the first time and we're all figuring it out. So just monitoring the stress. And I know this has been mentioned several times, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again, how important it is for our kids to have a schedule and stick with that schedule. It does do quite a number on their mental health. And I will just use my own daughter. I'm sure she loves that I use her as examples all the time. But she, in the spring, when we were all just kind of in survival mode, and I'm sure a lot of other parents as well, we let some things go, right? We gave them a little bit more screen time or a little bit more freedom to do things, a little bit less of a routine, and kind of just, we're all surviving and trying to make things feel better. But it can actually do harm on them. And you notice that they just get deeper and deeper into a darker hole when they can't rely on that schedule that you have set up for them in the past. So getting back onto a schedule and sticking with it is really great for their mental health. Also, our younger kids are sometimes, well, our older kids are able to verbalize how they feel, but sometimes it is difficult to get them to do that. But the best way to monitor how they're doing and how they're feeling is to ask them. And sometimes it takes a lot of asking them over and over until they will finally respond and talk with you. But you continuing to ask them how they're feeling, process, what is it like for you to only be able to, you know, see your teacher on the screen, and just being open and allowing them to tell you when they're feeling sad and frustrated and mad, because I mean, we all go through these feelings with this weird situation we're in. So just continuing to talk to them about how they're feeling, and with our younger ones, giving them opportunities to express themselves in different ways. So maybe that's drawing a picture, or, you know, doing something hands-on where they can talk while they're doing it, playing with Play-Doh, any of those types of things where you're giving them an opportunity to feel safe, like they can let out how they're feeling. Also, it is important, as other people mentioned, to get outside and get some fresh air. I know we've had some kids tell us that their parents are scared to let them go even in their backyard. And I understand this is a very scary situation, but whatever feels comfortable and safe for your family, allowing kids to take that break and get outside and get some sun can really raise their spirits and make them feel like, okay, the world is still spinning. It looks different, but it's still spinning, and we're going to make it through this. And then providing opportunities for them to connect with family members and friends in a safe way that feels right for your family. A lot of our kids are asking, what do I do? I miss my friends. I don't know how to talk to them. And so maybe that looks like allowing your child to FaceTime a friend. Maybe it looks like allowing them to, you know, mask up and be in the front yard together, spaced out, but something to where they can feel that connection. It's just so important that they don't feel isolated. But I just know that we in Coppell, I can speak for, we are all here for you, to support you and help you and partner with you. And we love your kids, and we want to partner with you, like I said. So please reach out to us anytime. If you're noticing something with your child that just seems a little bit off, I've already Zoomed with several kids, and it's been so nice to see their faces and to talk about, like they would in my office, just what's going on, how are you feeling, you're sad, what can we do, you know? And it's just been so great. So please reach out. If your child isn't comfortable reaching out, you can certainly tell your school counselor, and we will be happy to connect with them, because that's what we love to do. And I think my last thing, I think is just something we need to kind of watch as we transition back to, some of our students are going to be back on campus and some are going to stay virtual. I think we just need to keep an eye on our kids that might start to feel a little isolated all over again, because they will notice, oh, well, my friends are allowed to go back to school and I'm staying at home. I know that's going to happen in my own house. You know, there's going to be some kids are going back and some are staying, and just they're going to start feeling new feelings about this all over again. Right now, we're all in the same boat. We're all at home. We're all Zooming all the time, and we're all engaging this way. But in a few weeks, when some students may return back, I think that is just another time for us to process with the kids how they're feeling, and you know, just let them know that everything that they are feeling, it's okay. There's no wrong feelings, and we'll get through this together. I think that's it. I'm not sure how much time I still have, but
thank you very much, Ms. Duncan, for this presentation. It really means a lot to us, again, for all of you to be here with us on this day, morning, Saturday, when it's supposed to be your break, guys, but you're still here with us to give us your expertise. We really appreciate that. We have a few questions, and I think some questions coming to each one of you. If you guys don't mind, for the next few minutes, we'd like to ask you these on behalf of the community. Also, I want to remind our brothers and sisters who are with us right now that at the end of the program, we're going to be posting the raffle link, so you can participate and win some of the gifts that have been offered by our sponsors. We thank them very much for being here with us as well too. So Ms. Duncan, there's a question for you. So Fatima is asking, when our kids basically they feel negative about being at home, and then they're less motivated to work, and I know that most of what you mentioned is part of it as well too. How can, as parents, we help our kids? And specifically, if I want to add to this question, actually, if our kids, they kind of like almost, I don't want to say give up on even trying, that's the hardest part. And I know when they want to have a break, I can give them the break, we can take them out for ice cream, this and that and so on. So, but if some of our kids get to the point where just kind of like they're giving up on this completely, what advice would you give the parents? How can we deal with this?
I think it's so important to communicate with them, but I will say that what I've noticed with some of the kids that are giving up completely is that it's because they're just feeling completely overwhelmed. So helping them to break things down into smaller chunks and say, okay, let's get through this, you know, first period, whatever it may be, reading, whatever, and then let's get through this, check it off, like somebody mentioned with the check boxes, check it off, take a break and move on. I feel like sometimes when they log into Schoology for the day and they see all of the things that are expected of them, we don't normally see that visually. I mean, they do all of those things in school on a normal basis, but it's not laid out visually for them to log in and be like, oh my gosh, I have this and this and this. So I think as parents, we just have to help them to break it and chunk it into more manageable pieces. Also, not allowing them to get super behind, because that is something that once they're behind in this situation, they feel completely like they're drowning and they just can't get out of that hole. So so trying to stay on top of it and then trying to break it up into manageable pieces. And if that's not working, sometimes they need to talk to somebody that's not their parent, right? Because I can say the same thing to an 8th grader that's not my daughter and my daughter, and the one that my daughter will not listen to me. She's like, no, you're wrong. You know, so they just need to hear it from somebody else. So reach out to their teacher or their counselor and let us try to help, because we're happy to do that.
Thank you very much. How often do parents have access to the counselors like yourself, for example? Do they have to go by appointment? Do they send an email? Are there any office hours that people, they need to go to their counselors in their school, or how does it go?
So for us right now, I think email is probably the easiest way to establish the initial contact. And that is we don't have, unlike teachers, we're available all day during the workday to interact with parents and students. And so that's, you know, it's awesome that we have that time to do that. So I think sending an email and then, you know, deciding if you want to do a Zoom or a phone call and then scheduling that is the best way to do it right now.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think you have a question that might be going to Ms. Shaikh. is about testing and exams. How will tests and exams, Omar is asking, how will the tests and exams be conducted during online learning? How to make sure that students won't cheat in any way?
So this is actually a really good question. I know that during online learning, we are trying to change the look of what exams and assessments look like in a general setting. Mm-hmm. And it's more interactive now. It's going to be more guided projects, learning, making sure that they're understanding the content and are able to give back the information and not just sitting there and taking a multiple choice test. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be too concerned about cheating online because most of the formats that they're using, especially in high school, will inhibit that cheating. For example, they are using platforms where you're actually having to verbalize what you're doing in a discussion format rather than a paper pen format or like just clicking on multiple choice. And we are using Schoology, and Schoology is helping a lot with that because it allows you to give tests in formats that kind of restrict you from looking online and getting the answers. I think our facilitators and our teacher really understand that at this time, having the traditional test is probably not the best way of getting the information they need or getting an idea of how well they're doing in school. So the assessment's gonna look a little bit different, and I think it's going to mitigate any concerns you may have about cheating in terms of online learning.
What's the protocol if any parent would like to, for example, present their concern about this issue, the issue of testing and the kind of like cheating possibility and all that stuff and so on? What is the protocol to reach out to the school or school district? Is there anything that they could do about this?
Oh, absolutely. Remember, we are here to help you. I would first go to your facilitator or your teacher. I'm sorry, I'm used to saying facilitator because at New Tech we call teachers facilitators. But I would definitely go to your teacher or your facilitator first and say, you know, this has been assigned to my learner. I'm concerned about, you know, whether or not they're actually doing the work or if they're getting help from somewhere else. And they are more than happy to answer your question. If you have a more general or broad question, that's something that you need to ask your APs, your principals. Send us an email. Shoot us an email. I know like our counselor answers emails like within the second. He's like very good about making sure that, Mr. Kennington, he's very good about making sure that he answers emails like that. We are on a 24-hour policy right now, which if you send us an email, I know in our school, we try to send it back within 24 hours. We try to answer you within 24 hours. So if you do have a question, let us know. I would hate to say, you know, a broad range on testing because it's K through 12 and it's gonna look very different. But if you have a specific concern about a specific grade level or a class, that's where you just shoot us an email and we will help you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. A question to Ms. Hernandez regarding, you know, as a teacher right now, one of the biggest challenges parents are talking about, and I speak it to about myself actually. I have my daughter, she's in 5th grade, and another one is actually senior high school right now. So I'm okay with that, with the high schooler. So she's having her own independence in that regard. I trust her judgment on that issue. But the 5th grader right now, she's spending a lot of time between sessions on side chatting with her friends. Like basically, it's just like when she's done with her assignment, she's done with her homework, whatever she's been assigned to do, she's done. But then I can hear her speaking, and then when I go and check on her, just like, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm talking to my friend. So is that part of the classroom? She's no, it's a private chat room or something like that. So is that something good? Should we allow this? Is it okay to do it while they're done with their assignments, or should we inhibit that and put some, you know, guidelines for our kids on this issue? What do you suggest for us?
I have a few thoughts on that. It sounds like two different things. So the first thing about the space, to address your question about the space in between different subjects. So I will say that the first week of school and the first few weeks of school, there is very little, and of course it's very different secondary, but at the elementary level, we intentionally are using that first week for building social emotional learning, building those relationships. So I know that in my personal experience this year, I've had some parents come to me and some new learners to our school come and say, hey, I don't have any friends. I'm feeling left out. I know that you have us doing all this work, but I don't have friends. And when you ask these kids, what are you excited for this year? I have about 21 kids, and 19 of them, their one answer was to make friends. So we all know that the brain works this way. You can't learn if you're not happy. You can't learn if your needs aren't being met, especially your emotional, social, emotional needs. So we were very intentional at the beginning of the year, so this week, to allow them some time to get to know each other and to talk. Now, there may be two things going on. One might be the breakout room feature, which is something we use in Zoom that some teachers use, where we still can monitor them in small groups, but they're allowing to discuss. Or your daughter might have been just chatting with her friends because she had extra time in between classes, and that extra time is going to, she's going to lose a lot of that extra time as the content and rigor heightens throughout the week or throughout the year. But I also would encourage you to, as long as she checks that off, not only is she promoting responsibility, but she's also learning how to be an independent adult, because if she's truly put in her best effort and she can show you that she's turned in all of the work, and she has, you know, you might have to wait until the end of the day for that reflection time that I was talking about, to say, hey, you know, I noticed you were talking with your friends. Can you show me the work that you completed today? Can you tell me what, you know, what you were doing? And if she says, you know, I had some time because I wasn't being challenged enough, or because I completed my work, you can monitor that, but just know that that social emotional piece that they are missing from seeing each other every day, recess, even arrival, dismissal, things like that, those were so ingrained in the learning experience, and they're missing that. So I would say not to prohibit that. But yes, you do want to keep a close eye.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. I want to ask Sister Juli, actually, who's the homeschooler, in regards to if there's any specific qualities parents need to, let's say, highlight in their dealing with their students right now as they learn from home. I know this is for Sister Juli, she's something natural because she's been doing that for many, many years, but for parents who've never done that before, probably, if there are one or two major qualities parents need to maintain in order for them to have a healthy relationship and also environment for their kids to learn, what would they be? Sister Juli, I can see that her name is actually with us here. I'm not sure she can hear me right now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. I guess it's more of kind of be a little bit laid back. Don't be too anxious, or, you know, especially with making sure the kids are on track with their stuff. You know, be a little bit more laid back, be approachable, help them, you know, come with you. And what would actually be nice, if you can do it, is actually to really take interest in their studies. And then you make a bridge from what they're learning in school to real life, so it becomes really meaningful to them. So let them have somebody who's outside of school, who's still able to talk about maybe whatever they learned in school, and tie it to things in real life. So that's kind of more of what homeschoolers usually do anyway. So maybe take that and, you know, like, be approachable and be willing to learn along with them. Take real sincere interest in what they're learning, and, you know, like, whenever you're doing something, going outside or whatever, tie it to whatever they're learning in school.
So they don't have to always be on high alert, you know, my kid is skipping, you know, an assignment or a class, or this. Just be laid back, take it easy, they will learn it, they will take their time, right?
Well, yes, but not to the extent that they're not doing the schoolwork. So you still have to, you know, have them take care of their accountability themselves. So you're training them with that too, but also at the same time, because it's already probably a lot for them, especially adjusting to it the first few weeks. So maybe be realistic and, you know, know how to adjust to whatever the stress level is at home. And, you know, and maybe like, because they're all at home, so make the family atmosphere more something that they can fall back into and chill and relax, instead of, you know, everybody being high strung all the time, basically.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to Ms. Duncan. A question actually come to you here in regards to students who are not necessarily feeling well because they're feeling down, feeling, you know, this separation anxiety, and they're not in the mood to do their assignment for the day or to be available, even though they're home right now. Would that day be, if the parents, for example, suggest or send an email, would that day be considered an excused absence, or How do we deal with that stuff?
What I have been advising the parents that have asked me questions like this right now is that, you know, the students we do want them to try to work in their assigned, you know, periods of the day, but they do have all day to get their work done for that day and to be, to engage in order to be counted present. And so I would say, I mean, everybody needs a mental health day some days. So I do understand that. But if it is possible, maybe they just need to take a break or, you know, start their schooling later in the day and try, you know, take a nap or take a walk or do something different, change up their schedule a little bit. We talked about the Zoom fatigue earlier, and that is a real thing. And the schedule can feel overwhelming for some of them. So if they are starting to feel down and are expressing that they need a break, I think I would try maybe to see if you could just give them a few hours and then have them start later. But if they need a true mental health day, then you as the parent can make that decision and certainly send in, you know, the documentation that they're going to take the day off. But I don't know that it would be an excused absence, but it's, you know, sometimes as the parent, you have to make the decision for your child. You know them best. So if you are seeing that they need a break, my opinion is that then you should give them the break.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think a question, this might be go to Ms. Shaikh over here regarding the structure actually of the classes or the timing of the classes. Sister Huma is asking, she said the different lunch times between elementary, middle school, and etc. It's kind of hard for parents. Like, you're going to keep always in the kitchen preparing, you know, lunch for all these kids, right? So in this case, she's asking, how do you manage that? I mean, is there any way we could have since everybody's at home anyway, so put them all in one lunchtime so you can have them all at the same time, and instead of doing all that stuff in different hours and so on? Is that be possible?
Absolutely. So I will say that if you have kids in multiple grade levels, the best way to do it is kind of map out their schedule for the day and see where they overlap and where they don't overlap. Remember, Zoom meetings are not going to be every minute of the day. They're not going to be live the whole time. It's 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the class or in the middle of the class, and they are recorded sessions. So like Ms. Duncan said, that if a learner needed to complete their work at a later time, they can do that. They have till midnight of that day to get credit for that day. So if they are unable to do it at a certain time, that's okay. I would chart out the schedule for your middle, elementary, and high school student and kind of map out what times are overlapping and give yourself a lunch at that time. I would also try to give them the independence that they need by, just like you do at school, make sack lunches, or, you know, put your lunch in a lunch box and put it on the counter, and when it's time for them to eat, they can eat. They're old enough. We cannot hold their hand the whole time. And I believe that it has been that way. Parents are feeling, well, I have to watch them. I have to be there. I have to, like, you know, make sure I'm cooking for them or making food for them. Really, they need to have that independence and they need to have that growth for doing these things on their own, regardless of their age level. I will say for emotional support, one of the things, alhamdulillah, I will say worked really well for my house is in the evening, parents sit down and have dinner with their kids. I will say this is the most important time for you to really interact with your children and say, hey, how was your day? You know, what did you do? You know, explain your schedule to me. How are things going? Be active in the terms of monitoring their Schoology by asking them questions and asking them to show you. But during the daytime, during class time, give them the space to learn. I have so many parents say, well, I can't, you know, sit there on Zoom with him all day. Well, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to be sitting with him on Zoom. You're not supposed to be sitting all day with Schoology. Do your work. Trust that the facilitators, the teachers are doing their work, and they are there to answer questions and help them as best as possible. And it's so important, Ms. Hussein, that really they need to follow the schedule. Just like you woke them up from school, woke them up to go to school, you have to wake them up, sit them down, say, you need to be there. This is your expectation. This is your teacher's expectation. It's not vacation time. You got to get your work done. And if you need me to talk to them, I would be happy to talk to them. I can do that as well. I know that I work really well with high schoolers. So if you're having a problem with the high schooler student not being motivated, please reach out to me. I can have that conversation with them. I did that in the spring. There were times where we had learners who were completely missing in action. I had to actually call their homes and request to speak to them personally and say, hey, it's Shaikh. How can I help you? When are you going to get to class? Do you need me to be there for you? And that really helped them be a little bit more motivated. Get your facilitators, teachers, and administrators to be on board with you, and they will help you go through the process. I would like to say one more thing. Dr. Hunt had to leave. He did text me, he had to leave, and he was very apologetic about that. He did want you to know that we are here for you. If you have any questions, concerns, the administrative team in CISD are always there and are willing to answer emails and calls and questions. He also wanted me to remind everyone that we are serving lunches and breakfast, and they are being served out from multiple schools in our district and multiple points. And there are some places where we're actually apartments and stuff where we're actually delivering the food to them. So please reach out to us if you need any support in terms of lunches or breakfast being delivered to you or being given to you. Regardless if you're on free or reduced lunch or not, we are providing lunches and breakfast to all students. And if you have a lunch plan, you could just do school bucks to pay for it through that.
So is these are these meals actually offered for students to come and eat at the cafeteria together, or just take away and take it home?
Drive through.
So just drive through, okay. I think you answered the question. Sister Huma is asking another question probably, and I would like to give this to all the panel to answer if you want to. In regards to our younger kids are easier to wake up, probably because they want to meet their friends and all that stuff. They're very excited, right? But the older ones, specifically, you know, the middle schoolers, that they want to take their sweet time sleeping for the whole day, probably, if they want, if they can. So is there any advice that getting the middle schoolers to get up daily on regular school timing? And she said, I tried bribery, didn't work out. So any suggestion from the panel? What do you guys can suggest? Besides, you know, having a Miss Shaikh calling them and says, hey, you need to wake up. What else can we do?
I can tell you what I did with mine. We had to start, our schedule was so off all summer, like ridiculous. It's, you know, we were completely messed up. So we did have to start like weaning them off and having them go to bed earlier, get up earlier for a few weeks. So it might take a little bit of time to break those bad habits. But I would say just make that schedule and stick to it, even if you have to rip them out of bed. And we're happy to give them a call and talk to them about it. But it is important for them to get back on the schedule. It is hard though, and definitely limiting the technology at night, because they are having so much screen time during the day. You know, I know they want to be on their phones at night, but limiting that. And whatever rules you have in place where it's plugging it in parents' room or in a special spot where everybody puts their technology, but getting it out of their hands right before they go to sleep is really important.
I guess actually adding to what you mentioned here beautifully, that you need to make sure that they start kind of like going back to sleep earlier a little bit, because I think one of the indicators that they're not able to wake up in the morning because they're not having enough sleep. So probably instead of worrying about waking them up in the morning, I need to worry about sending them early to bed. If we can create a system in the house, which is what we tried to do when our kids were much younger, always dim the lights, you know, at sundown. So less light exposure in the house, getting them in the mood of sleep. No, like it's no technology, electronics are on, or the sound of it to be in other rooms and so forth. Like getting them ready, that's it. It's time to go to sleep. So if this would be the case, that would be great to help the kids actually wake up early. So if we send them to sleep earlier, hopefully they will wake up earlier as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also, I want to remind our brothers and sisters who are actually watching with us here that our raffle link was already sent on the chat log. You can check it out and fill it up, inshallah ta'ala, and hopefully you will receive your, whoever the winners will receive their gifts from our sponsors. We appreciate that, and we thank you very much for everything. Last question I believe for Ms. Shaikh over here regarding communication. People actually complaining that there's so many communications happening right now. My inbox is filled up with all these emails. I don't know even who's who, right? Especially if you have 2 or 3 kids going to school, and for each child you have about maybe 2 or 3 teachers are teaching. So I'm getting tons of emails, and as a result, unfortunately, maybe the important emails from the school district are kind of getting buried underneath all that stuff. What's the solution for this? What do you suggest for us? How can we stay focused?
So absolutely. I would first of all make sure that you are getting communication from your school district. That is the most important communication you're going to receive. If you miss something, go onto their website, their Facebook page, their Twitter feed, and get that information that you need from them, and just follow them along, because I know we're all on social media at all times. So that should help you get the information from your school district. In terms of your teachers and your facilitators, it's really difficult to monitor so many different teachers when you have, you know, so many children in the school district. I would try to keep a point teacher that you may have. For example, our rookie team, our 9th grade team, we have one teacher who kind of like fields most questions and sends out communication. She's the one you would go to in case you had a question about the rookies or the 9th graders. But mainly, it's not so much email as it is the learning platform. Please be visible on Schoology, please, or Canvas. Please make sure you are checking in. And if you have any questions, that's what it's there for. For older students, the correspondence is usually given to both the student and the parent. The older students should be monitoring their emails, you know, making sure that they're, you know, answering any questions and coming to you if they have any issues. But again, I know it's a little bit difficult right now with distant learning. You're going to get a lot of questions. You're going to get a lot of emails. The best way to do it is just focus a little bit of time in the evening. Ask your children, hey, is there anything I need to know? Is there anything that's happening? What's going on? And then really pay more attention to the district emails, because that will give you the guidelines that you need.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you all for being here with us once again, for our wonderful panel, for taking the time really early in the morning this Saturday, for being here with us. We appreciate the effort you put in here, the informative discussion we had. We're looking forward for more conversation with you on behalf of the Valley Ranch Islamic community and the families and our students. We really thank you very much for being here with us, all of you. And I wish you all a pleasant weekend, and for the rest of the week as well too. For all the brothers and sisters watching with us over here, you guys don't forget to fill out your application for the raffle opportunity to win with one of our sponsors. We want to thank them very much for being supportive of us. Once again, appreciate all you being here. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you.